Hey, what's up? This is Chosen. This is going to be a Raid Shadow Legends video. We've got an important one today because the Greathoof Loriaca events are live in game. We've got a new Fragment champion being launched as of today, and there's some things going on with this one that is going to shape my opinion drastically on if you should probably pursue going after the fragments for this champion or not. I'll also show you some of the polling within the community that I've done here on the channel to help you see what other raid players are deciding to do. So that's going to be the bulk of what we discussed today, as it's the main thing going on, but we'll also get you caught up on everything else happening in game as well. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so like I said, the main thing going on today is going to be Greathoof Loriaca's Fragment Event launching. Now, for the quick refresher course on Loriaka, it's going to be a legendary Skinwalker Spirit Affinity support champion. You have the A1, that is going to be a multi-hitter with a booked up 50% chance of stealing a random buff. And the A2 is going to be an AoE, that is going to be a decreased resistance. That's probably the main calling card selling point of this champion, is the very reliable booked up 3-turn cooldown AoE decreased resistance. And you also get some turn meter fill for this champion based on placing the decreased resistance as well. And then we get a 3/3 rotation when booked up to also block debuffs on all allies for 2 turns and get a little bit of turn meter fill as well. And the passive is going to help synergize because it's going to fill turn meter by 5% each time an ally buff is manipulated, basically removed, transferred, all of that. It's going to fill this champion's turn meter and synergize with the A3 to get more and more turns in, and then also fill ally turn meters as well. So going to be kind of a niche support champion whose main role is going to be the very reliable decreased resistance on an AoE. And then as far as the base stats are concerned, everything is mostly what we would expect. The base speed's decent of a 105. I probably would have bumped that up to like a 110 or so, because it's not like this champion's overpowered and they are a support that gets value out of snowballing turns. So I would have bumped that up to like 110, but you do get the 20 base accuracy, which is nice because you are going to need that to land not only the decreased resistance, but to also be stealing buffs on the A1. And then all the other stuff like the HP and defense is pretty normal and expected. The base attack is irrelevant because this champion does scale with attack, but it is a support champion. We're not going to be building to do any damage. So that's the quick champion recap. Let's go ahead and pull up the Fragment event calendar because there is something very important to talk about here on this one. Now, the difference for this one is that we have got 2 different summon rushes going on. You've got a summon rush this weekend that is probably going to be coinciding with some sort of 10x. As of me recording this, we haven't heard yet. There is a 10x going on today for Supreme Elhain, but that is not part of the summon rush for this, because the summon rush for Loriaka is going to be launching tomorrow. But then we also get a summon rush next weekend, which means there is no champion chase going on. It's going to be 2 summon rushes instead, which is very, very rough, because we're going to have to like pull a bunch of shards this weekend during a 10x. Unless they launch like a guarantee or something, it's probably just going to be your typical 10x. And then next weekend is I can write that on here actually. So some sort of 10x this weekend, and then next weekend's probably going to be 2x voids, because our last one was 2x sacreds, and they usually go ancient, sacred, void. So probably 95% chance next weekend 2x voids. And given the fact that there are 2 summon rushes required for a pretty niche champion in Loriaka that isn't going to be super impactful for most accounts out there, I think you'll see a general sentiment within the raid community that this is probably going to be an underwhelming fragment event that lots of people are going to probably lean towards skipping. And we do have a little bit of polling on this over on the community tab here of the channel. Shout out to the 1.3 thousand of you who have already voted on this poll. And you can see it's staying pretty consistent. I've been watching it since it had a couple hundred votes, and it's mostly been right around 8% the whole time, which is very low. Razovarg, one of the recent events, had a 32% rate on one of these polls. So we've got a champion right here in Loriaka that seems to be about 25% of the hype that we saw in the community for Razovarg. And even Razovarg wasn't one of the most hyped ones, but Razovarg had a really cool passive and a very interesting thing that he was doing in the game. I don't know that Loriaka does that. I think it's going to be a lot more niche for the type of account and the type of player, that Loriaka is really going to be something exciting or super interesting to add to your account. So I kind of agree with the polling. I would say for about 90% of you, you don't have to feel bad or pressured for skipping Loriaka, at least based on what we know right now. It is worth noting that sometimes they do rebalance champions, and if you skip out on Loriaka and then they get buffed or something, you could end up with some hindsight regret, but the odds of that happening is probably pretty unlikely. And like I said, there is a 10x event going on for Supreme Elhain, and that is going to be coinciding with the Call of the Arbiter episode that's launching very soon as of me recording this. As of this video coming out, that episode will probably be available, and you can check that out today, and we'll get the final episode of the 4 starting champions to be about halfway through the Call of the Arbiter series going on. And then for some of the other stuff happening in game, CVC has wrapped up, which means that we'll have an off week next week, and then you'll probably be getting your next CVC match about 12 days from now. And then as far as tournaments and events are concerned, there isn't anything too crazy going on. Now, the Dragon tournament does have 200 coins at 1800, even if you aren't going for Loriaka, which could be interesting and worth taking note of because there are super raids and all of that going on with the Dragon right now. Champion training, you do want to do a little bit because there is a fusion warm-up event here right now, so you can get a little bit of cheap, easy to acquire resources by at least scooping up your 60 daily points right there. And then the summon rush is going to be launching tomorrow. So the unfortunate thing is, if you do end up pulling shards for Supreme Elhain here on the 10x, you're not going to be double dipping to get any progress towards Loriaka if you were going for Loriaka. But I don't expect either one of these to be super hyped up or have a really high participation rate for either the 10x going on today or the summon rush for Loriaka. And we are also approaching the halfway point here on the Dark Fae Doom Tower, so a decent time to consider approaching the secret rooms and seeing how much progress you can get done in there. For the offers in the shop, we've got special pack offer. That's kind of an underwhelming void pack offer, to be honest. Let's see if there's anything super noteworthy here. This multi-battle pack is just a decent pack. It's average, and it's a super common energy multi-battle pack that they like to launch for fragment events and different things going on in game. We are long overdue for mini mix packs getting those 100% extra ones. So hopefully we get those like next week or something, because they're some of the better packs in game and we haven't seen them for a while. They do them usually every couple weeks or so, but I feel like it's been a while since we've seen those in game. We've got the Elhain Power Pack. Now, the way this pack works, this is a pretty common one they do in game. The better route is to buy the 5600 energy, so get like the 2 slots of 2800. That's technically better than getting a 20 energy refill, but the 20 energy refills give you a little bit more customization because you don't have to claim all 2800 at a time. You could spend 10 refills doing something and then save the other 10, for example, so you do get a little bit less, but it means that kind of either one can make sense technically. And then usually people go with like the XP if they're running low on XP, or the multi-battles if you are running low and you are a mobile priority player, or if you really need to keep farming up your Great Hall and stuff like that. But this grades out like a 1.1, a 1.2, depending on what you get, so it's decent, but it's nothing super incredible. The development pack is not super great, and crit damage. Okay, so unfortunately, nothing super noteworthy worth a deep dive discussion here in the shop. Everything is mostly just kind of average, typical stuff that we'd expect to see in the shop, and there's nothing that you should like feel bad missing out on or anything super impactful coming through as an offer. There is something I also want to talk about really quick that I don't feel I articulated very well in yesterday's video that a few of you properly called me out on and let me know, so I do want to clarify this. I feel like some of the set rebalancing, the worst one was Frenzy. They took this from a plus 10% turn meter for every 5% HP lost to having this be based on a debuff received, and they also nerfed the effect. So it's plus 5% turn meter for every debuff received. And all in all, I thought their head was in a decent place as far as adjusting some of the sets. The sets they chose was great. A lot of the sets they chose need a rebalance for sure, and some of them were decent, but the Frenzy one was definitely a missed opportunity. I think this is a cool role for a set to have, giving turn meter for HP lost. What I would do personally is probably make this 5% turn meter for every 5% HP. So basically just 1% turn meter for 1% HP lost, and then make it a 2-piece set. That way it's kind of a nice, fun, interesting set to slot in there, and it would have a much better role in the game. I think the way that they went about rebalancing, it's going to become even more niche and probably even less used than it already was. So that will do it for me on this one. Remember to subscribe on your way out. If you enjoy daily Raid Shadow Legends content, let me know your thoughts down below on the stuff like the Loriaka fragments launching in game. You can head on over to the community tab to cast your vote, and I'll always keep you in the loop of some of the community polling that we do here on the channel. And I appreciate all of you. Hope you have a fantastic end of your week as we're heading into the weekend, and I will see you soon in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.